So, have you found that our intuition or our inner awareness contributes to finding relationships?
Oh, absolutely. And I feel that if you don't listen to it, you tend to make a mistake.
Listening to it is important.
Absolutely.
And is that how you, I'll say, married a stranger after 6 days? Isla would love to start with that story.
Yes, I think it was partly intuition and secondly, faith that it was the right thing to do at that time. So, leading up to that, of course, was a lot of work that had to be done to get to a place where I felt safe following that intuition and following that sort of hunch. But it worked out, almost 2 decades
Wow, that's
in the
awesome.
making. Yep.
Yeah, I love that. I love when things like it's almost like the synchronicities and the planets line up and everything comes into the right moment, right? And then you just like, "Oh,
Oh,
I've been waiting for you."
I'll tell you a story about the synchronicities that I've had once I made that decision. Yep.
Excellent. So who are you and what do you do?
I am a relationship life coach. I'm actually by profession transformation life coach, but I specialize in relationships and dating for those over 40. We tend to have a really hard time out there. I mean, everybody does, but for the most part, who I tend to coach is those who cater to others. So people in healthcare industry, service industry, those who wear their hearts on a sleeve and have been hurt in the past by love, who are running away from love because of all that. And so I help you really rewrite the story by rewriting the interpretation of what you have made believe along the way that love is, or if love was supposed to hurt you. And so we go into the nitty and gritty in terms of discovering what are some of those beliefs, what are some of the blocks. And I also like to integrate neuroscience when we start to set up the plan for the next steps so that you can go into it with your intuition and also feeling secure in your decision to open your heart to love again.
So it sounds like a well-rounded exploration for sure.
Absolutely. And everything is custom tailored to you.
I love that so much.
Yeah.
And the interesting part about relationships, what I have found for myself is that we need them like to grow. I mean, like, we're
Yes.
all, I know as a soul, we're on our solo journeys. We're all unique and have our, the paths we're taking, but it's in those relationships that I found I've had the most growth and the most awareness of who I really am as a soul and as a personality, Teresa, and what I'm here to explore. Have you found that also, Isla?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because how else would you know what you need to work on if you were not put in a position where you have to discover these things, maybe the hard way? And so I often speak about the contrast when it comes to the whole duality of life, right? Because you wouldn't know pain if you didn't feel pleasure and vice versa.
Mhm.
You wouldn't know light if you weren't in the darkness. And if you didn't have people who come into your life to teach you some of those things, obviously, if you're not aware, you're not going to know that. And you're going to see, oh my gosh, everybody's against me. Like, why is this
Mhm.
happening to me? But when you get to the other side and you really become aware of the purpose of every single person that enters your life, then you can connect the things that have happened to you that actually happened for you because it has brought you to a place where you went through this self discovery, where you identify things that don't feel well for you, but now you know what to look for and those types of things. So I feel that absolutely that was the case for me.
Yeah. So what's got you down this road? Because, there's all kinds of paths we can take and all kinds of things, like you said, happen to us along the way. And so what made you go, I really want to support other people
Well, I
in
think
this way?
my own past because I grew up as someone who was not emotionally attuned. But I've learned very early on that, when you cater to others, then you are liked, you're appreciated. So that was a safe space for me. But that is a slippery slope, in my opinion, because a lot of times you lose yourself trying to appease to every single person in your life for your own safety and comfort. And it wasn't until I was probably in my 20s that I really discovered that I was the common denominator in every single thing that was happening to me, and that something had to give. And that's really when I began that whole self discovery. I went on to study psychology so that I can first and foremost understand myself and then everybody else. I enjoyed observing. That was definitely something that I've enjoyed ever since I was a teen. Like, I'd be that friend who is pretty quiet, just observing everybody,
Mm-hmm.
and I was also pretty, I would say I was pretty wise for my age. I grew up in a place where I really didn't have a childhood. So my story was pretty dark, if you will, because when I was 11, my country was struck by war. And so it was a war-torn, zone. I was separated from my mom and my dad. I had to learn to fend for myself very early on. And so with that came a sense of responsibility. And it really kind of buried that child in me. So I had to grow up fairly fast. And I took my life in that direction, right? I never really connected with that child within. And after I discovered what was true for me, I could really sense the children in those that I worked with as well, because a lot of us take the wounds from our childhoods into our relationships later when we become adults. And so I keep that in mind every time I work with someone. And that is really one of the main things that we do focus on, because that is the root cause, the kinds of sets the stage for everything that is transpiring in your life. So I did that work with me, with my mentors. I went on to, coach, obviously, not professionally at that time. I actually had a job in healthcare field so on the side, I did the coaching, I did a little bit of consulting and those types of things. And it wasn't until I was in my late 30s that I've really gone through I would say epiphany, because I got to a place where I just couldn't handle being always there for everybody and not having anybody reciprocate, not even a smidge of what I was giving. And I write about this in my book, and I said that the discovery was so profound, and it was really coming to a realization that I was giving others everything that I craved, everything that I never received, and everything that I felt I needed. And while sad, it was also very eye-opening to get to that place and finally understand myself. And of course, now I can understand the world around me much better because of that experience.
How interesting, because I look at others as mirrors. And so what I hear
Yeah,
you saying is you were actually like projecting onto them what you want them to give
exactly.
you.
Exactly.
Wow. And so and obviously walking your talk, because you've done your inner work that, is preparing you for what's coming next in different relationships. Is that what you've kind of
Hmm.
found too?
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We exist in a highly intellectual world, and often the feeling part where your inner wisdom lies gets left out. There's a way to feel more in balance with all parts of yourself. This way is by accessing a spiritual bigger picture of who you are as a soul. Check out the link in the show notes to access a free video series created by the Wayshowers College to support your journey and moving through this game of life. Your intellect and feeling parts will love it.
And it seems whoever you're with, you learn bits and pieces of the things that you haven't learned in those prior, right? Like every relationship reveals something new about you. And it also gives you the opportunity to integrate the knowledge that you've acquired along the way. Because I feel that so many people don't, like, they read books, they listen to podcasts, they binge watch YouTube. But when it comes to really integrating it, that's where they feel stuck. And this is why I created a space where you bring all of that to me, and then we'll structure it so that it's applicable out there in the world for you, so that you can understand how to apply them for yourself, because not one size fits all.
Yeah, I find it interesting that you say it that way about, all that we're ingesting and, trying to and digesting, but yet a lot of people are, the social aspect of like one-to-one and relationships is really lacking. And, I feel that there are so many people these days like searching, but they're not finding one another. But so I guess what's coming to me is that because they haven't even found themselves.
Exactly.
I
And
got
how
chills.
would
I
you
say
know?
that, like, yeah, they haven't
Exactly.
even found
Me
themselves.
too. But it's the truth. It's the hard truth. Because if you don't know yourself, how do you think you're gonna know who is right for you, or who is gonna be the right fit for you?
Exactly.
Right? Because you're always gonna find yourself appeasing to them, or I say, what's the word I'm looking for? You
It's
shapeshift.
shapeshift.
You shapeshift.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And then you lose bits and pieces of yourself along the way. But when you know who you are, then it's easier to put boundaries in place, to know what it is you want, to know what it is you don't want, and to actually have the strength and clarity to walk away. Because
Right.
if you don't know who you are, you're going to be trying to find yourself in every person you meet, but that's not authentic.
I know in the past we've talked a bit about, yeah, you consider yourself an empath and that you've been very open and aware most of your life. And so how has that played a part in a role in your own discovery of who you are and working with relationships?
I've learned that empathy is really not a skill or a characteristic, it's trauma response. And the reason why is because when we look at our nervous system, we have basically 4 reactions. So we got the fight, the flight, the freeze, or the fawn. The fawn is where you engage in people pleasing, being empathetic, because it gives you a sense of importance, right? Catering to others, oh, they're going to appreciate me. So, in a way, it's a selfish way to get sort of a supply. Like we talk a lot about narcissism out there, but empaths are just as much of a narcissistic trait as narcissists themselves. And I say this with love because I've studied narcissism in depth. I mean, I can have a PhD in NPD
Right.
because I found myself around narcissistic guardians, narcissistic relationships, and narcissistic professional acquaintances and friendships and circles and all of that. So believe me, I have been a narc magnet pretty much my whole life, but I didn't know that I was. So when I looked into empathy, I feel it's important to have empathy with guardrails, especially when it comes to relationships. That doesn't mean that your relationship needs to be self-sacrificial. As someone who has been always sacrificing myself for relationships, always been, the one mistake that I used to make was I was always there for everybody, but in a very motherly way. And when you're in a relationship, you need to be a partner.
Yeah.
You got to grow a backbone, right? And I say it how it is because I've learned it the hard way. And so if you're listening, you need to have a backbone in your relationship to be able to create partnership and not codependent relationship. And while I was someone who is an avoidant, let's say avoidant attachment, because I couldn't express my emotions and I would always seclude myself to deal with whatever crap I had to deal with, I was still on one side very empathetic. And so I've learned to become an empowered empath. And an empowered empath is empath who's got guardrails, who's got boundaries, who is not being taken advantage of. So you can still have a good deed without having to give up so much of yourself to be there. And so that's how I see it.
That makes total sense. And so I know there's a couple things that on your on the Facebook that I looked up recently that you have a keyword that says like opening your heart safely. Let's dive into that a little bit, because I feel that's where a lot of people have, shields up and blocks up, and it's hard to open your heart safely. So how do you support people in doing that?
First and foremost, we work on discovering who they are, to really understand who they are. Because when you know who you are, the mask comes off. And the safety begins. Because when you're out there pretending and you're showing a completely different version of who you are, then you have to keep up the act. And that does not feel safe. So authenticity, knowing who you are, really understanding that, and being okay, being your messy self, being who you are around your friends that you feel safe with, is who you need to present out there in the world. But a lot of times we don't. We always pretend, we always put this facade on because we want to be liked for the sake of connection. And so in order to really be safe, you got to be yourself. You got to drop the pretending. You got to drop the, I'm just going to do this because, I want to be liked. And you need to show up as who you truly are. If someone does not accept who that is, they're not your person. Move on. And it's easier to vet people that way instead of try to make it fit. Because a lot of us try to make it fit.
And then it doesn't fit. Right?
No, or it fits temporarily maybe.
Right.
But
and then it's
really,
like time
it really
to move on.
doesn't long term.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so your husband, obviously it's a good fit for you for 2 decades. And I'm assuming there's been lots of growth and expansion and awareness too.
A lot of molding, Teresa.
Mm-hmm.
We've done a lot of molding along the way. I knew very little about him. So my husband and I have gone all together on 6 dates before we said, yes, I do. But that was a span of about 9 years.
Wow.
So I met him when I was actually 11 to 13 or so. And then I moved away, and then I came back when I was 18. And before we came to the US, I went to my homeland, said goodbye to my friends, kind of prepared myself for the new life in the US. And he asked me out while I was there for those 3 days. So for 3 days, we had this sort of summer romance, and it was fun. But I didn't think it was going to lead to anything, because I was moving across the big blue to start my new life, and he was staying. And so 9 years later, I went back and we rekindled. And of course, at that time, we were 26, 27, and that was really the time where you talk about your life, right? But I didn't think anything of it because I didn't expect him to would want to give up his life there to come to the US with me. It was very unrealistic at that time, but I was in a really good place emotionally and in my head, knowing that, I'm ready to share life with someone Now, be it him or be it someone else, but I've taken a year off to really figure out what it is that I want. Because the way I see it is I'm not just choosing a partner for life, I'm choosing someone I'm going to build a family with. And for me, it was really important because I didn't have that security in my own, whole, mom and dad, brother dynamic. It was a lot of inconsistencies. It was a lot of things. I'm sure they tried their best. But we have split up by that time. My mom and dad were divorced and we were all going in different directions. And for me, it was, I want someone that I can build this life with on a stable foundation. And so I went into this proposal of his, which was the last day I was there. So again, we rekindled. We were together another 3 days, believe it or
Love
not,
those threes.
the threes.
Hmm.
And then my last day there, he proposed to me. And I looked at him and I'm like, do you know what you're asking? Like, I live in the US and you're here in Europe. And he goes, yeah, and we got to figure out, are we going to get married here? Are we going to get married over there? Like, what's going to happen? Like, he really gave it a thought. And I was surprised because I didn't expect it. I'm like, oh, here's another romance and this and that. I'll go back to the US, back to my life. But he really was adamant about figuring out how we're going to do this. And so I said, okay, if you really want this, let's just sleep on it. And I was supposed to return to the US the following day. He was not going to be at the airport to see me off because he doesn't like goodbyes. And then my flight got canceled. Coincidence? Maybe. I don't know. Alignment, perhaps. And so I called him up and I said, my flight is canceled. Can you come up to my city and meet me tonight? And that is really the night where we solidified that decision. He told me, he's like, whatever you need to do, just do it on your side. When all that stuff comes over to this side, I will take care of everything financially, whatnot. And let's go ahead and start this. And I told him, I'm like, but okay, here's one thing. I'm like, I like this. I like the spark. I like the chemistry. I like all of this. I like the feeling, because I was like on cloud nine, as was he. But I'm like, let's be realistic about this a bit. This is a big decision. This means that you would have to leave all that you knew to start over at 27 in another country. I want to make sure that you are ready for that because it's not going to be easy. So I was very upfront with him, making sure that he understands that this is a very big decision. And this is not something that I take lightly. So for about 9 months or so, we kept writing each other. He would go to the internet cafes because they didn't have Wi-Fi at that time. And he would send me emails. And then I got myself a phone. So he would call me in the morning before I went to work. And so we gotten to know each other in those 9-10 months that we tried to get him over here. But when I came to the US after all this, and this is the part that I want to share with you when it comes to alignment and intuition, right? Teresa, I used 3 cards to pay for my trip to Europe. I was maxed out. I didn't have finances to retain an immigration attorney. I had no idea what to do or how to start, whom to call, none of that. But I said, okay, we're going to figure this out. So I came to the US within the first week. Of course, I was engaged, right? We had a little gum machine ring. It wasn't even a ring. It wasn't a grand proposal or anything like that you would expect. But anyway, so here I was engaged. Now I got to figure out how to get him over here. So you might have heard about the 90-day fiancé visa.
Of course, yes. Yep.
This was before the show, actually. And so I went to an attorney and I found out it was going to be $5,000 to get him here. And I'm like, where am I going to get $5,000? And I didn't expect him to pay, even though, I'm sure he would have offered. But I'm like, okay, I was supposed to handle everything on this side, and he was going to handle everything on that side, right? So I felt a
Mm.
sense of responsibility too. Now, he told me this, that his friends did not believe that I was going to pull through, that I was actually going to make this happen. And I did not find that out until he was in the country.
Okay. We're not going
But
to
of
tell her that.
course, they were skeptics, right?
Hmm.
And did I have second thoughts? Maybe. Of course, I mean, you're crazy not to, right? Is he going to be here just for a green card? Like all of these things, right? But I'm like, okay, I knew him. I knew him as a kid. I got to know him as an adult. He had two businesses that he was running. He was devoted to his family. Like all of the qualities that I was looking for in a partner, he already portrayed out there, right? I've asked questions when we were together just so that I can assess whether or not this is someone that I can mesh well with and actually create life with. And so after I was done with the attorney, I was on my way home. I had a P.O. box and I was trying to figure out where can I pull the money from to pay for the first half of the retainer, which was about, I believe it was $2,100. I'm like, that's a lot of money. I was earning $18 an hour in my job. So, I mean, I was on my own. I didn't have anybody that I could borrow money from, nothing. And I go to my P.O. box, Teresa, and I opened it up, and there's a check from my school loan residue in the exact amount
No
that
way.
I need to pay the attorney retainer.
Perfect.
Now, I get goosebumps just
Yes,
thinking back to that
absolutely.
moment. And I was in my car crying, happy tears.
Yes, yes.
And the minute I got home, I sent him an email. I'm like, I secured the funds to pay the attorney. I'm going to contact her the next day, and we're going to start the process.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing story. I love when things like that happen. And it to me it's so interesting how, you came somewhere. I mean, like we're all connected all over the planet, but we go to different places, right? And so, but yet you were still connected for even all those years when you weren't together, like physically, but there was something obviously in the back moving and getting
There
ready and
was some
preparing.
invisible cord that kept us together. And funny thing
Absolutely.
is, when I was there, I asked him, I said, do you have someone that may think that you're in a relationship with? Because I
Mhm.
don't want to be, messing things up for someone else. Because that's one thing that I absolutely didn't want to. And he goes, no, we broke up 7 months ago. And I told him,
Perfect.
like, okay, do you still have any feelings, right? Because it could be residue that he needs to work with. And I didn't want to have any bad energy or anything breaking two people up who were together, obviously, for a
Hmm.
few years.
Hmm.
And he said, no, no, it was just meant to end, and it ended. And so I was like, okay, so this is a clean slate. There is no hard feelings, no bad blood. And we moved on with that.
That's lovely. And so, and then you came to your midlife where now you're working with people in 40 above.
Yes.
As the Earth's crust shifts and changes, our lives do the same. One way to maneuver through the small and large moments that shake us to the core is by reviving your connection to spirit, gathering ways to cleanse your energy field, embracing spiritual awarenesses to give you a bigger picture, and knowing that you are not alone on your journey can be a great support. The Soulquake Survival Guidebook is a great companion to meet you where you're at and support reviving your connection to spirit in earth-shaking times. Get your copy today through Amazon Worldwide in paperback, ebook, or in audio, and begin embracing more clarity, inner peace, and enthusiasm for your life and what you've come to do.
That's the general numbers you're working with is people 40 and above.
40 and above. Yeah.
Hmm.
Middle age. I feel that um, this is really a time where we truly discover what life is about. Those of us who want to discover these things, right? There's those who are still sleeping, who are still not aware what's going on. But then there is that small percentage of those who know that they deserve something else. And that all of this stuff that has happened really has brought them to this point. And so what I try to do when I work with someone is really make them reconnect with the story of, look, you've had 40 plus years or so of that whole experience, right? That journey, those ups and downs, right?
Mm.
But when you look at every low that you've been on, I'm sure there is a high right after that. Because that's what life is about, right? It's these dips we get and then these highs that we get to live through, and that's what life is about. And what relationships are about is to find someone who is willing to go through those highs and lows with you, right? And you're going to also go through phases. I've changed, and I say that I've changed probably 5 times. My husband was not open-minded as he is right now in the beginning. So there was a lot of clashing. There was a lot of patience that was needed. But I also understood how it is to start from scratch.
Right.
Here he was, 27, starting over in a new country. No friends, just me, not speaking the language, not knowing the culture, not knowing how to get around. I had to be really sensitive and compassionate to the fact that he has given his life to be able to create a new life with me. And even now, I remember that, or the place that he was in, and like that first year, because it was a very trying year. And yes, we have gone through so much in the last 20 years being together. And there are times where I get mad at him. We have disagreements, but then I always remember the good parts of him, right? Because it's so easy for us to focus on the negativity. And so when I work with my clients, I usually ask them, tell me of one good thing that that person taught you about life or about you that you can appreciate them for.
That's a good way to go.
And when they look at that, they're like, oh, you know what? He or she did this. And then when they connect with that, then whatever that residual hate or whatever that negativity, it falls off. And it really helps in the process of creating this new step or this new way for them to open their hearts to love.
That's awesome. And I know you also, besides working one-on-one, you also have a podcast. Let's talk a little
Yes,
bit
I
about that
do.
called Let's Talk Love podcast.
Yes.
And I'd love you to share a little bit about your podcast.
Oh, absolutely. So Let's Talk Love show really began as sort of a way for me to share my perception on love. And as of 2025, I decided to invite guests because through this path that I'm on, I have gotten to meet so many incredible individuals, including yourself. And I got to hear so many perspectives on love. And so the way I redesigned the show was really to invite them in to share their perception on love, as well as give new perspectives to those who are afraid to put themselves out there. So we call it, Let's Talk Love, but we talk about love, life, and the in between. So there's some pretty raw conversation that's happening that I feel is essential to have. And it's not being had out there. At least I haven't heard it. It's the tough things that people don't want to talk about, or the things that people hide because they want to be entertaining, they want to be, funny, they want to be liked. Like for me, I might say things you're not going to agree with, but it's going to make your head and your wheels spinning so that you can think about it in a different perspective. And so one of the things that I'm known for is really to shift your perspective. Whenever I speak with someone, especially in their like the first call, they're like, "Oh, I haven't seen it that way. Thank you so much for showing me that way." Because two things can be true at the same time. And if you see that other side and you can understand it better and you can understand yourself better and why you showed up the way you did or how you can show up better in your next relationship. And so my show is really around that, and just being able to give them a new perspective.
And that's a good sign. A good trait of a great coach is being able to give that new, different perspective and allowing people to go, wow, I didn't think about it that way. Right.
Right, because you don't know what you don't know,
Right.
right? And many of us have done the work or have gone through life, and we all come from different walks of life. And I always say that we all bring this flavor to everything. And so for me, I have a pretty vast knowledge of human behavior, neuroscience, psychology, but this is backed up by my own experience, my own failures, my own triumphs, and my own things that I'm going through right now that I also get to share because, this is an everlasting journey.
The discovery till the end, right? All the
Oh,
way to the end.
absolutely. Absolutely. It never stops.
No, it never stops. As people are like, the journey, oh, I think I'm done. No, well, are you underground? Like we're still going, right?
Like buckle down. You have no idea which which
Exactly.
uh, which dip is coming.
Right, right. So as we finish up here, Isla, I'd like to ask you a question about enthusiasm. Maybe if you have one key that you find in your life that gives you enthusiasm for who you are and what you're doing, and if you'd like to share that, that'd be awesome.
Oh, absolutely. Enthusiasm is such a fun word. Let me think for a minute. So, enthusiasm for me is really in a form of sharing my story so that I can inspire those who may not see a way, but at the same time also give them the tools to create and co-create life of their dreams, life that they desire to have. And on top of that, the way I see it is when we are enthusiastic about life, right, you can enjoy it more. And when you are more enthusiastic and you enjoy life, you get more things to be joyful about. And that creates places, environments, relationships that can be lasting, that can be built on. And above else, the most important thing, it sets up the next generations who are looking up to us for success. And so for me, when I work with someone, I want them to have that enthusiasm, knowing that they may be the chain breaker in their family, right? That they have the power to change the next lineage of people, right? And when they look back, they be like, she is the one or he's the one who broke this chain of dysfunction. And so that's what I feel is the enthusiasm for me.
Yeah, those 7 generations ahead and 7 generations behind, right? Or something like that.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, Isla, how can people find you?
Well, you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I also have a website. We can share that in the description.
Mhm.
But for the most part, I play on Facebook. So, Facebook, if you want to contact me, DM me on Facebook, and I'll make sure I reach out to you. And what I love to do is give people a taste of what it means to work with me. So, I offer free 20-minute sessions for those who are new or curious to find out what they can get out.
So be a rockin' 20 minutes.
Absolutely, rocking 20 minutes.
Thank you, Isla, for coming on today. It's been such a pleasure. And again, like I started the conversation, I find that relationships are a building block to who we are and our soul's essence. So it's such a good conversation. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Teresa. It's been delightful.
And thank you all out there for listening into another episode of Enthusiastically Spiritual. I hope that you got some good insights from Isla. All in the show notes will be all of her links and ways to connect with her. And until we meet again, just remember that life is too short to not be enthusiastic about your unique journey. To keep the enthusiasm going, please like, subscribe, or comment below. We would love to hear from you.